Hey Jeff, how's it going, man?
Hey, good, Jason. Good to see you.
You too, you too. And you're an incredible person when it comes to you're a nutritional scholar and a bodybuilder and a very generous human being. There you go, there you go. That's what I wanted to see. So, could you give us a little background on your story, how you got plant-based and
Yeah, it's not a typical story. I've been vegan for almost 38 years, 38 years in March. So back in 1985, that's when I became vegan. And it was an interesting one. I found that there are basically two groups of vegans. Those who come to it from something that happens on the outside, like they see a movie, read a book, you get introduced to a friend that's vegan, that, the information comes from the outside. And those that have the information come from the inside, either through meditation or a traumatic experience that causes an awakening, or just a shift or a reconnection to the heart space, which then they apply externally to their life. And the latter was how I came to it. So I'm so glad that there are movies, there are books, there are Facebook groups, there are so many different ways, meetups, there are vegan restaurants that people can go and socialize and connect and share information and gain an opportunity to make a very important change, not only for themselves and their own personal health, but for the environment and even to a greater extent, the animals. And for me, I came into this world in a family with very high IQs. My father was an existentialist teaching English literature at the University of Florida. My mother was a Jungian child psychologist, teaching art therapy to children who were underprivileged. So, and both of them were published authors and very accomplished artists and, and screenplay writers and everything. So, I grew up in that environment of high integrity, with a real respect for the heart and mind of human beings. But I also grew up in this world, and this world puts a much greater, especially in this American society, puts a much greater emphasis on personal self, right? Ego, what you can obtain, what you can have, money, power over other people. So I really started, that really started to get me depressed, feeling like, okay, this is not really the right world for me. This doesn't fit who I am. I was trained to eat animals, and that didn't feel right. I was trained to be competitive because I'm a male, and that didn't feel right. I loved working with people. I love collaboration. I love connecting with people on a heart space. And it's like, guys just didn't do that in my circles. And I lost my father before I was turned 18. My mother was diagnosed with MS and died shortly after that. My brother was lost to mental health issues. So my whole nuclear family just started to collapse around me. And I felt abandoned. I felt like, why is everybody in my life that's important to me, everyone that I have this connection with that I don't get from other people, leaving? And how am I going to face this world that I'm living in that is crass, is uncaring, is greed centered, is selfish? And I just couldn't relate to any of this. And I'm like, maybe I just don't belong here at all. And the depression got so intense for me. Obviously, I started drinking, doing drugs, smoking cigarettes, drinking alcohol, all of it to try to numb the emotional and physical and mental pain I was going through. And it was never enough. And I'm like, okay, here I am, born into a high IQ family. I was gifted such an amazing ability to process things. And I can't figure out this one simple thing of just how to be happy in life. And it was so frustrating. I just decided I'm done. I'm leaving. And I attempted to take my life and I went into a coma for 3 days. And when I came out, I felt something had shifted. Something was different. I wasn't quite sure what, but I felt like there is an answer. I just gotta ask the right questions. And I was sitting in a bar getting stone drunk, drinking iced teas to oblivion like usual. And a woman walked in the bar and she was just like glowingly happy. She's just beaming, that genuine type of happiness. And I'm like, okay, let's do this. I just walked straight up to her, complete stranger, and I said, show me how to be happy. I want to be like you. And obviously she was taken aback as complete stranger, not coming up hitting on her, but instead just asking, how do you be happy? It's not your typical approach. But she said, I just came from a guy who's a healer, and that's probably what you're seeing. And he changed my life. And now at this point, I had become very bitter and cynical, not trusting anyone, not believing anything could change. So I, sarcastically said, great, take me to your leader, right? What cult is this that's got you so happy? Yeah, I was figured like, even if it is brainwashing, it's better than where I'm at right now. So she takes me to this guy's named Buddy Skyfeathers, and I'm like, oh, even the name is cool, It's like, and he opens the door, and I go to step into his apartment, and he blocks the doorway with his body. And I'm like, oh, that's a little bit rude, it's kind of weird. And he did that to force me to look up and look into his eyes. And when he did that, he looked straight into me and said, oh, you came here to prove me wrong. And I've never been called out for something that I didn't think was obvious before in my life. I felt totally undressed. I felt naked. He saw me, not me with what I want to project of who I am, but he saw me, the person that was struggling inside, without even saying a word. And I'm like, okay. And I could feel my defenses start to drop. Because at this point, I was ready to end my life anyway, for good, the next time. So what do I have to lose, right? Except lose some pain. And I'm good with that. And so we walk in, we sit on the couch, and we just start talking yada, yada stuff, And I didn't even bring it up or anything, but he said, oh, it's your father. And I felt my heart sink. And I felt myself going into the cave. And he said, do this one thing for me. He said, tell me how you created a separation between you and your father. I said, just repeat this line. I created a separation between me and my father by, and fill in the word that comes to your mind. So I did that, and I said his drinking. Well, no, that's what he did to create separation. What did you do to create that separation? And I kept doing it, and over, there were the excuses, the finger pointing, the anger that I had towards him for the choices that he made in his life. And he's like, no, keep going. Tell me what you did to create that. He pushed that responsibility back into me. And all those layers of the onions peeled away, and I was left with just my own decision, my anger at my father that created a separation. And when I hit that, it was like, felt like lifetimes worth of anger, sadness, separation, disconnection, all just burst. and release. And the tears just poured like I couldn't stop. My stomach was so clenched, it was aching. My cheeks were so in pain just because I was crying with such intensity.
Wow.
It was just a soul deep cry of releasing, because what I was feeling was not just the separation that I created between my father and myself through my anger for him leaving me when I needed him. But it was pain that was so deep because I took that and held on to it so hard. It kept me from loving myself. It kept me from connecting with anybody else. It stopped my connection with nature. It stopped my connection with my higher self, the grand universe, whatever you want to call it. I broke that connection and it was killing me. And that was my depression. I cut off my ability to love by holding on to that anger. And I was starving myself to death. And when I released that, I saw my father differently. I saw a man struggling, trying to live in this world just like I did. I saw a man who went down the same path I did of drugs and alcohol abuse. I saw a man who was frustrated that he could not come up with a mental and emotional answer for what he was going through. I saw a man who took his own life. And I felt empathy for him for the first time in a long time. He didn't live his life for me. He lived his life the best he could for himself. And he was struggling just to survive. But I couldn't see that. Well, when that dam broke, I reconnected to my heart self. I reconnected to who I really am, a compassionate, caring, sensitive, open, fascinated by nature, loving of other people, fascinated by humanity. It just all burst open. The connections were firing. My brain was on fire. I instantly started seeing golden auras everywhere. I could see the energy in everything, and plants and humans, and just brimming off of people. I could see it all because I was so plugged in. I was so reconnected to my energetic self that I could see all the energy in front of me. You know, you see what you are. When you are embracing the energy, you can see the energy. Because when you're happy, you see other happy people. When you're sad, you see other sad people. Why? Because it's what you're experiencing. And in that moment, oh my God, my hands felt like somebody had plugged them into light sockets. They were that energy charged. They were just buzzing with energy. They felt like they were swollen twice the size, just because there was so much energy pouring through my hands at that moment. I couldn't sleep, obviously. The energy rushed. This opening of what they call in traditional Chinese medicine, the opening of qi channels. I had busted all these dams that I had said, saying, I'm not going to feel that. I'm not going to feel that because of the pain. I was trying to stop the pain. But I was stopping everything else I was feeling too in that process. I was stopping my ability to love, to connect to others, to feel hurt, to feel pain, to feel sadness, but also to feel love and feel connection and feel happiness. I was killing myself. I was choking myself off by trying to suppress this pain. I was blocking all of it. And wow, when I decided to release that, my connection was so phenomenal. I just meditated all night long and just let it start. The energy was just, the downloads were coming fierce and fast. And because I reopened the channels again, I turned back on the radio and let the radio play and let it receive the wavelengths in the air. And wow, what an experience and turnaround. I realized in that moment that I was viewing the world the wrong way. I came into this world and I'm like, wow, I don't belong here because it's so different than I am. What is my ability to contribute to this? When I re-embraced my own power, my own reconnection to who I truly am, I was like, I didn't come here to get something. I came here because I love giving something. And that's my power. It's like, this whole world is designed about get money, get power, get a sexual relationship, get. It's like, wow, that's not who I am. That's not where I get my joy from. I get my joy from giving. I mean, when I help people with nutrition and their life improves, oh my God, you can't put a price on that experience. I had a guy run into Vitamin Shop when I was working there after I turned him on to IP6, amazing nutrient from plants that reversed his kidney cancer. He was about to have both kidneys removed. Wow. I told him to do this. He comes back in 3 months, tears in his eyes full of water, runs in and gives me a bear hug and said, "You saved my life." His cancer was gone. You can't put a price tag on that experience. He goes, I not only want to thank you, my wife and family want to thank you too. What do you call that experience? That's not money. That's not power. That's not getting a sexual score. This is an experience that's transformational. This is an experience that I will never forget in my lifetime. Will I forget the car I own? Probably. It's why I do what I do. It's so funny when people say, "Oh, Clean Machine, you're a supplement company. You're just out to make money." I'm like, oh my God, if you only knew. If you understood my life path, my experience, in that moment in March 15th, 1985, I will never forget that day because my whole worldview changed. I learned how to not only live and thrive, but I learned my purpose to be here. And it's a purpose that I committed my whole life to, not just, hey, I got a good career path. No, this is what I will be and be doing for the rest of my life. That's it. Because it's who I am. It's who I want to be. It's me. That's the Geoff that was born this way. I get to fully be me, And now I'm trying to find people like yourself, a company, a way of making money that is in line with my values, And that's why I love so much what I do, teaching people the health benefits of a plant-based diet, teaching the health benefits of different herbs and plants that aren't in our dietary pattern that we can add to them or supplement to our diet to improve our health outcomes even more, especially if we're fighting disease states or health challenges that are from the standard American diet, the standard American lifestyle full of stress and full of not living your true life's purpose. That's challenging, that's brutal on people. And I want to help people move back to reconnecting with who they are, living your truest self, living your passion, living your love, loving what you do, and then using that to help others. Pay it forward, because that's, to me, one of the most rewarding things. People have asked me, what is the greatest gift that you've found in this whole experience? And I can sum it up in one single word. It's forgiveness. It is probably the single most powerful attribute of humanity. It's a form of love, but it's a very specific form of love. Forgiveness allowed me to let go of that pain, let go of that anger, and allowed me to live my life. Literally stay alive, but live in the fullest meaning of the word, not just surviving, not just eking along and eventually dying of a disease state caused by my diet or lack of exercise or drugs or alcohol or whatever else would take your life, but living, really living out your life's purpose, living a purposeful life that is so empowering and so, it's what living really is and meant to be, but is so far away from what most people are doing and calling living. Making a living, No, you don't make a living. You embrace living.
Love it. Wow, Geoff, that's such an amazing story. Like you just gave one of the most profound spiritual teachings, and this was supposed to be about whole foods. So thank you for that, man.
Well, it is. It is too.
And it's so true. I love what you said, and I can relate to this 100%. It's like, we're all born as babies and full of love, and then something happens to us, and then we have the hate, and that just covers up our heart. And then we find more things to cover up our heart. And most people, they learn forgiveness, and then they start to gradually remove these layers through forgiveness. Absolutely. But you had it all in one shot, it sounds like. That's amazing. And that led you to realizing that animals also have feelings, right? Is that part of it?
Totally. So in that meditation that evening, when I'm just buzzing off the charts, it's like, oh, okay, I'm not going to sleep tonight. I've got way too much energy. It was like 40 cups of coffee, except not nervous energy, just bliss energy. So I just said, okay, I felt so much gratitude. I went from feeling so much mental, emotional, and physical pain to wanting to end it for good, extinguish the life that I was born into. That's the only way I could feel like I stopped that pain. Once I released that, I felt I felt the relief of carrying that burden. Two, I felt almost born into my true self. It's like being imprisoned and being beaten every day into something that you're not, and being convinced you're something you're not, and even to a point believing you're something you're not, and then having all of that taken away and allowing your soul to truly manifest and be who you really are. That's how powerful that transition was for me. But I just meditated on that, and I said, I'm so grateful. How can I give this experience to other people without them freaking out and thinking I'm a woo-woo, way out there mental mess? And I was like, okay, how can I pay this forward? I want to give obviously the first thing, if you feel really happy, what's the first inclination? Share it with others, right? Share it with people you care about, because you want to share the good stuff with people, right? If you have a great gift that somebody gives you, if you have a great talent, you want to share it with people. If you're an actor, an artist, you're, good at anything. What do you want to do with that gift? You want to share it with people so they can enjoy it too, right? That's just natural. But here I am with this transformational, profound experience, and I'm like, okay, where do I go with this? And I said, okay, how can I pay this forward? And my higher self spoke to me and just said, well, you don't like suffering. Stop causing suffering for anyone else. And I'm like, wow, how did I miss that for so long? And it's just like, when you hear truth, like such absolute truth, you just know. It's like instant. Got it. I didn't need, but I was raised in academia. So all my friends were friends of that had fathers and mothers as professors in academia and high professionals. And so the barrage of questions about what about protein? What about B12? What about that? And I'm like, okay, I know this is right in my heart of hearts. I'm done. I'm there. It's not going to change ever.
But that's what's so amazing about your story. This is 37 years ago, and you didn't even have the science. You're one of the people who discovered the science. But now you can watch all these movies, all these people, Dr. Greger, Dr. Clapper, Dr. Khan. Like there's just, and so every day I'm learning more and more doctors. So you just went with a feeling. You knew it was right. And then it turns out that that by, eating plants full of colors, polyphenols, and fiber, which again, this is very recent research that is coming out, but this is 37 years for you. You just did it from a feeling. And like you said, you did your own research on it.
Yes.
So can you explain, okay, once and for all, I think this is the number one question, at least for me, before I went plant-based, was I believed through a lot of people, which I'm sure you've heard of and seen their books, that you can't get everything you need from plants. You can get some things, but your body's not good at converting things. So you can give us maybe a general overview if that statement's true, that you need animal products, whether it's dairy or meat or eggs. But also if you want to get into some specifics, like from beta carotene to vitamin A. I remember you helped me a lot through this transition. Like I was already in and I saw enough, but then I'm like, what about vitamin K2? What about DHA?
Right.
And I know you have an awesome product, an omega-3 product, but give us some information about do you need to get anything from animal products in order to be not just survive, but be a bodybuilder, have a lot of energy, reproduce?
Well, I'm hoping I'm the living example, right? I turned 60 this month, 60 years of age.
Happy birthday.
17-inch arms.
Beautiful.
And 0 medications, no helpants, blood pressure, perfect, heart rate, that of a runner. Everything's in line. I don't have a cholesterol issue. I don't have a diabetes issue. I don't have all the disease states that most people have. This is a sad statistic that up to 50% of Americans by the age of 35 have at least one advanced disease state, and by 42 or more. I'm 60 and disease-free, medication-free, drug-free, and the best freaking shape of my life at 60 as a 38-year vegan. Come on, man, let's stop with the excuses.
Seriously.
This is fear-bait marketing. There are companies out there that want you to continue on the path, eat animal products, get sick, do the pharmaceutical drugs, go to the hospital, buy the insurance, and then die. That's what they want out of you because the doctors make money, the pharmaceutical companies make money, the hospitals make money, the insurance people make money. They're all making billions, if not trillions of dollars on you staying asleep and following that exact path. Be the lemming and follow on that path, and you will give away all of your hard-earned money to each one of those categories. If that's what you want to do, go for it. It's a proven path. Almost everybody in the United States goes down that path. I don't want to be on that. I was not a lemming. I got off that treadmill and said, this is wrong. These are a bunch of marketing lies. And they use fear techniques to scare you, to keep you back on the path of eat the crap, get the disease state, go to the doctor, go to the pharmaceutical company, pay the insurance, go to the hospital. Every single one of those. The food companies and the meat and dairy companies make money off of you making that stupid choice. The doctors make money off of you making that stupid choice. The pharmaceutical companies make trillions off of you.
Oh, yeah.
All fear-bait marketing. Hospitals, money.
So what about
what they're doing?
What about carnitine? Your body can convert from plants everything you need, right?
100%. Okay, so let's just cut right to the bullshit. Okay, 100% of all nutrition for every animal on this planet, except some microbes that can generate their own, comes from plants. Animals do not make nutrition. They consume nutrition, okay? Animals don't make protein. They consume protein, break it down, and reassemble it as protein. They do not make essential amino acids. It's impossible. No protein originates in an animal.
Mhm.
You're just taking a plant protein, feeding it to the animal, killing the animal, and taking its plant nutrients.
So if we eat, so there's 9 essential amino acids.
9 essential amino acids, unconditionally.
And then about 20 if you include, right, the
broad spectrum of amino acids. All
so
of them can
if
be
I
formed
eat
from
that,
lime.
so if I look, and every plant actually has pretty much every one of them, but if you're eating a variety of beans and grains and green leafy vegetables, everything has amino acids. So
Yes.
whether I get it from the animal or whether I get it from the plants, my body will reassemble it to exactly what I need.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so here's an interesting thing. One, you don't even really need to meet all that variety. You just need to eat quantity. Just eat enough protein, and you'll make up any differences or shortfalls. Okay, so let's take a look at what's really going on in the human body. I was just talking to a guy in the gym today about this, which is funny because he's like, "Oh, you need to get your meat from protein." It's like, no. As a matter of fact, the amino acid profile. So if you look at a protein, it's a really long chain of amino acids, right? And each one of those has a specific amount of each of the amino acids called the amino acid profile. It looks like a bar graph when you map it out. Okay, so originally when scientists were looking at that, they said, oh, here's a plant protein. They're lower in methionine and cysteine, so they must be incomplete proteins because they're low, right? Okay, well, we now know that methionine and cysteine actually cause disease states. So plants had it right to begin with. And it's not too low, it's that the animal products are too high. So all your listeners out there, I want you to do one thing. If you do one thing to take away from this whole video, type in the words methionine dependent cancer. Cancer feeds on methionine. Wow. The more methionine you consume, the more you are feeding cancer cells to grow and kill you. So no, animal protein, which is higher in the 2 sulfur amino acids, methionine and cysteine, they're interchangeable in the body. The body can convert one to the other and back and forth again. All right, cysteine. Cysteine can convert to homocysteine. That is now considered one of the top causes for atherosclerosis. That's the damaging of the arteries, smashing, crashing up the arteries. This causes plaquing to happen. Plaquing leads to cardiovascular disease and disease functions in the brain like Alzheimer's and stroke. So here you've got these 2 amino acids that everybody thinks, oh, they're higher in animal proteins, that's why you're better. No, they're higher in animal proteins, and that's why they're killing you.
I know. Not only are they off, they're completely backwards. And the same thing with choline and carnitine, right? Can you speak about that, the TMAO?
So yes, so choline and carnitine, people say, oh, but animal proteins are higher in choline and carnitine. It's an interesting study they did on that. So choline and carnitine can both be taken up by our bacteria in our gut and conformed into a material called TMA, which then goes to our liver, into our bloodstream, and converts to TMAO. Now, what does that mean? TMAO has been linked to cardiovascular disease. It's been linked to diabetes. It's been linked to cancer. It's been linked to coronary heart disease. Most of the major killers, even hypertension, have been related or correlated with higher incidences of TMAO. So what happens in vegans, right? So it's interesting. We have a much higher fiber diet, right? Because the fiber is in the plants. Animal products have 0 fiber in it.
And 0 polyphenols.
Polyphenols. And both the fiber and the polyphenols feed the good bacteria in our gut. When those good bacteria rise up, they actually take any TMO that is formed and break it back down. So they've looked for TMAO, and they've only found very trace amounts of it in any vegan or those on a strictly plant-based diet. So even if we consume carnitine or choline in dietary supplement, we don't get the rise in TMAO because we have a better microbiome. We're building a better microbiome that produces better metabolites and does not produce the negative metabolites. When you eat an animal product, enzymes start to break down that flesh specifically. 2 of the byproducts of that breaking down is, 1, it creates a bile atmosphere. Now, good bacteria can't live in a bile environment. Bad bacteria thrive in a bile environment. So every time you're eating meat, creating a bile environment, now you're inviting bad bacteria to start to bloom and thrive. And then the body says, ouch, those bad bacteria are attacking. We got to secrete mucus to try to protect the healthy tissues from that. That mucus prevents absorption of the nutrients. So every time you're eating meat, you're not only getting less and less ability for your body to absorb the nutrition out of the food, it's producing these two metabolites called cadaverines. Why is it named cadaverine? Because it was first discovered in breaking down cadavers, human flesh. It's the exact bacteria that destroy our body and break it back down into its pieces when we're dead. Well, that's what you're putting in. You're putting in a dead animal in your body, and those cadaverines are trying to break it down. The other one is called putrescines. And it's got its funny name because it smells putrid. It's putrefaction. Putrefying, if you've ever smelled that rank smell of a dead animal decaying on the side of the road, everybody knows that smell. You drive by it and you roll up your windows, right? Because it stinks so bad. What you're smelling is actually putrescines in the air from that dead animal. Those putrescines and cadaverines are both known carcinogens, cancer-causing compounds. Every single meal you eat with an animal protein in it, you are producing two very powerful cancer-causing elements. Not only that, the heme iron that's in the animal protein. Okay, so let's talk heme iron. So
again, this is, just want to say, heme iron, they always sell it. This is one of the reasons why you need animals, because heme iron is more absorbent. But now we know that
just
too much iron is actually causing heart attacks and so many diseases as well.
Exactly. So everybody thought, oh, heme iron absorbs a lot better than plant-based iron does, which is true. And that is a bad thing. And you're like, huh? Why is that a bad thing? Okay, so when heme iron is an isolated iron, it's free. What happens when you put iron, which is a metal, underwater? It rusts. It oxidizes, and that rust can be poisonous. Guess what happens when you put it in a wet environment in your stomach? The same damn thing, it oxidizes. Oxidized heme iron is both cytotoxic, which means it destroys cells, and genotoxic, which means it can be absorbed into the cell and start destroying or breaking up your genome, your DNA, which can make your DNA start producing aberrant cells, more commonly known as cancer. So we know through its production of N-nitrosamines, as it oxidizes, this free iron oxidizes. Now, in a plant protein, plants smartly stick an antioxidant onto it called IP6 or phytate or phytic acid. Now, we used to think, oh, it's bound to a phytic acid, so you can't absorb as much. Perfect, because your body shouldn't be absorbing as much. As a matter of fact, if you get too much of that heme iron into the bloodstream, our liver produces this enzyme called hepcidin that blocks that heme iron from coming in. Wow. Not only that, it'll block heme iron for 24 and up to 48 hours. So you can't even absorb any more heme iron. Now that's even a worse problem than just blocking the iron from getting in your system. It means all that iron stays in your digestive tract. And then as it begins to oxidize, because it's got no place to go, that's when it starts causing colon cancer. That is the #2 cancer killer in the United States, colon cancer. And why? Because we're eating a meat-centered diet. Remember, heme iron is in not only red meat, which is what most people think. It's in lamb, it's in pork, it's in chicken, it's even in fish. Heme iron is in every animal flesh, regardless of the species. So fish is not healthier, then chicken's not healthier. They all contain heme iron, and that is all cancer causing. Heme iron is known to not only cause cancer, but heart attacks and stroke and diabetes, all linked to it. So what's cool about the the phytate bind iron, one, the antioxidant prevents it from oxidizing. Antioxidant. That's so that now what happens is our body, really coolly, our liver produces some enzymes saying, hey, we need some more iron, and sends a signal, and our bacteria then go, okay, you need how much iron? Great, I'll get that for you. Goes over and breaks off that phytic acid and releases just the right amount of iron into the system that our body requests from our microbiome. They talk to each other. And there's a perfect symbiotic relationship. The bacteria say, hey, keep feeding me. I'll protect you and I'll feed you what you need. It is a beautiful symbiotic relationship. There's actual cell signaling communication going on between species of bacteria in our gut that are listening to messages that our body sends to them and tells it exactly what to do. It's a beautiful thing. So this phytic acid, once it breaks off, oh my God, what is that? What does that IP6 do? Well, IP6 can go into a cell, a cancer cell, and cause it to apoptize, explode. So it kills cancer cells. Two, the first thing, it protects from cancer to being created to begin with. Secondly, it can go in and kill that cancer cell, but that's not even the magic trick. The magic trick is phytic acid has this really cool structure where it can go into the DNA. When you've got methionine telling the cell, cancer cell, grow, 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 you've got heme iron going in and screwing up the growth mechanism. That cell can grow and grow and grow. That's cancer. That's metastasization. That's what kills people. Well, the phytate, that phytic acid from plants, only comes from plants, goes into that cell, it turns back that switch to normal, and can turn a cancer cell back into a normal, healthy, functioning cell. There is not a drug on the market that can do what plants do every day if you eat them.
So you're saying that this phytic acid, which going back 100 years to like Weston Price and Dr. Gundry, all these best-selling books talking about the problem with lectins and phytic acid.
Oh dear
So
God.
you're saying that it's phytic acid is actually good for you.
It stops from cancer causing. Oh my God, it's the second leading cause of death in the United States. Do you think that that's a good thing? I'll let you fill in the blanks.
That's amazing, Geoff. I learned so much from you. I can't believe that you're still deepening my understanding, even right now.
Lectins are so important to human body. They say lectins are bound to carbohydrates. Of course they are. It's how our body kills cancer cells. It's so funny. So what happens is cancer cells can feed on sugars. Well, the plants actually bind some of the sugars, the lectins, to the carbohydrates. So the body can pull those in and use them and actually feed them to the cancer cells to cause them to apoptize.
Wow.
Our body depends so much on plants providing these lectins to us bound to carbohydrates that when we don't eat plants, our body makes its own and attaches them to carbohydrates.
Wow.
That's how important they are.
We make
lectins. Its own. Our human body makes its own lectins to kill cancer cells.
So really, what I think we could boil it all down to, what you brilliantly explained, is that eating plant versus eating a lot of animal proteins, and it really has to do with changing the microbiome. And when you have these microbiome, which fiber fueled, talks about 30,000 different, there's probably way more than that, but 30,000 different species, and they outnumber our human cells 10 to 1. But by changing those, like that's, you're basically changing, and each one of those 30,000 have so many functions, we probably will never figure them all out, but it's completely symbiotic. And it makes sense because, well, I guess except for those two you mentioned, right? The what is it called? The putrefaction?
Well, that actually is appropriate. If you put a dead animal into your body, it's trying to break down that dead animal. That's what it would do outside the body. It's just doing the inside. We're just stupid enough to put it in there and where it doesn't belong. And I do this. Look, I don't want to make anybody feel like we've all been tricked. We've all been fooled. there's a lot of misinformation from the science. And it's not even the fault of the scientist. They made just some assumptions based on other people's assumptions. So they're like, oh, animal products must be better since they're higher in nutrients. They have this, they're higher in protein. So that must be better, right? That must be the proper way. So they base that on assumptions, and they look for things to try to fit that assumption.
Right.
It's the assumption that was wrong. And once we start changing that and seeing that, we can see, oh my God, vitamin K2, you brought it up, and we'll talk about beta carotene too as well.
Yep.
So vitamin K2 is not present in plants. Plants produce vitamin K2.
And it's very important for bone health, and for getting if you don't have enough, you can get you don't absorb magnesium properly, and you can get calcification in your arteries. And it's in like cheese and eggs, right? And butter. It was, Weston Price said like there was something in the butter that was so important. Mm-hmm. So I remember for myself, and I do still occasionally supplement with it, but I remember you're the one who commented on my LinkedIn, and you said that you don't need the K2 you can get it from plants, and I was shocked.
Yes, well, indirectly from plants. Let's qualify that. So vitamin K1 goes into our gut, and into our gut, our friendly microbiome takes that vitamin K1, eats it up, spits it out as vitamin K2, and that's how they do it. Now, if you've had a round of antibiotics, you may have wiped out those K2 producing bacteria. If you are not eating a plant-based diet high in fiber and high in polyphenols, you're not feeding that population of K2 producing bacteria. So when they took a meat-based person, right, who's eating a lot of meat and refined foods with no fiber in it, they found, the amount of K2 producing bacteria is too small. So the assumption was, wait a minute, we don't have enough of those bacteria in there. Except they've never looked at plant-based folks. When we got plant-based folks who are eating fiber and whole greens and lots of polyphenols all day, that population explodes. And now you're not only producing enough K2, you're producing way more than the body actually can even use.
So I can really stop supplementing with the K2. If I'm getting 80 grams of fiber a day, and
you're golden. Yeah, obviously you have to be doing the dark greens, which are probably some of the best sources of that. But include dark greens in your daily regimen and your what's that?
Oh yeah, of course I do.
Like kale.
I think kale is like 1,000% of the K1.
Yes,
percentage.
Exactly. So and remember, you only need a fraction of K2 as much as you do K1. Mm-hmm. So and K2 can be stored in the liver and other organs. So we know that because you can starve the body of K2 and the body will still pump K2 into the bloodstream.
Wow.
Like, if there's no K2 coming in through here, where's it coming from?
Wow. And while we're on this train, you mentioned something I've never heard anyone else mention, and there's entire books written about oxalates. Yeah. And like which are they describe them as little shards of glass crystal that cut you open and destroy you. And then meanwhile, Dr. Liu mentions, she goes back to China. There's like 95-year-old women who've eaten spinach their whole life, and they have no arthritis. They're working with their hands. So you mentioned about, again, bacteria that are able to break down the oxalates.
Yeah, it's funny, people are so concerned about oxalates because of oxalic acid and the oxalates forming kidney stones.
Right.
So they're kidney stones that are high in oxalic acid or oxalates. So they think, if you're eating oxalates, you're forming kidney stones. Okay. So they did some research on this, and they found who are the people getting the most kidney stones. And meat eaters get kidney stones at a much higher rate than vegans and vegetarians. Why is that? If vegans and vegetarians are eating 10, 20 times more oxalates, yet meat eaters are getting higher kidney stones, what's going on there? Back to the microbiome. All right. So when you feed oxalic acid or oxalates into the system, and you supply those plants that those oxalates are found in, fiber, high polyphenols, high micronutrients. Okay, those bacteria called Oxalobacter, bacteria who eat oxalates, Oxalobacter formigenes. That's the structure function. If you want to look it up, oxalate eating bacteria. They thrive in our gut, but they only thrive when you eat them, feed them fiber. They are fiber eating bacteria. They're called in the science community butyrate producing bacteria because they eat the fiber, transform that fiber into short chain fatty acids, which then they can use for energy, fat energy, right? So they use it as a fat source, but they even poop out extra short chain fatty acids and butyrate to help our bodies. Our bodies strengthen our colon, increase absorption of nutrients from our colon. Win-win. Just feed them the fiber. The problem is the fiber intake should probably be around 50 to 60 grams a day, like a typical person. Look, our ancient ancestors, when we look at fossilized poop, were eating up to 200 grams of fiber per day. And here, modern Americans are eating 5 to 15 grams of fiber a day. You're not feeding, you're starving your own good bacteria to death. And they're literally dying because you're not supplying the food for them. You know, somebody says, oh, you know, you can't be vegetarian because we don't digest cellulose. Cellulose is the #1 most common molecule on the planet. #1.
Wow.
And human beings used to actually be able to break down cellulose epigenetically, meaning our genes said, wait a minute, let's stop breaking down cellulose because we're getting enough calories to feed our own bodies. Let's take care of our good guys in the trunk. Let's take care of our microbiome. Let them eat all that cellulose so they can feed themselves. Our body, in a symbiotic relationship with our microbiome, said, I'll stop breaking down your food source and I'll give it all to you. Oh, nice. Isn't that beautiful? So here we are. I'm getting this troll saying, oh, you can't eat plants because you can't break down the cellulose. And I'm like, no, that's intentional. The wisdom of our own body did that to feed our gut. And you're the one not putting in enough fiber in your own gut to feed your good bacteria. Wow. We have it so backwards.
Amazing. Yeah. And you mentioned butyrate, like, you know, like eating plant fiber produces way more butyrate. And, you know, the word butyrate comes from butter because they discovered it in butter.
Yeah, exactly.
But you eat fiber, right? Yes. There's people in like Okinawa and there's certain tribes, they eat like 85% of their diet is like sweet potatoes, but yet they're super healthy because your bacteria is producing the short chain fatty acids, which you need. You don't have to eat it in butter. You could just have them make it for you.
Here's a funny thing. Just by and people will say, "Oh, you get no nutritional value from indigestible fiber." False. Scientists now know that when these bacteria break down the fiber that we consume and produce short chain fatty acids, it supplies enough of these short chain fatty acids to produce 10% of our total needs for the entire day for energy.
Right. I've heard that.
So you're getting 10% of all the energy used an entire day from fiber. I would not call that zero nutrition from fiber.
Amazing, man. And you know what? I know this is a big part of your mission because you help so many men because, you know, like, and I love your story about your father because I think so many men can relate to this. We're all hurt. The masculine is hurt, and that comes out from father to son over generations. But people associate eating meat, even though they're not hunting, they're just going to the store and buying it. But people think like meat makes me manly. Meat makes me have high testosterone. Is that true?
just the opposite is true. Oh God. So one, vegetarians and vegans especially have higher testosterone than meat eaters. Now, I will be straightforward because I don't want to blow smoke. That same study showed that vegetarians and vegans, because we're eating a lot of fiber, produce another thing called sex hormone binding globulin. So you don't want too high a testosterone, because free testosterone circulating around can go over to the cancer cell and get it to grow, grow, grow.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want that. So what our body does with the high fiber is it stimulates the production of sex hormone binding globulin that goes and binds to that testosterone. Now a cancer cell can't use it. So that's safe testosterone. Now if our body needs it, we remove that and it releases into it, but it's protected. Just like that phytic acid binding to the heme iron, so a heme iron won't oxidize and damage. If you're eating enough plant foods, then your body will protect that. So you don't want too high a testosterone level. And vegans, because they're healthier overall, produce a higher level of testosterone than meat eaters. This is known, published studies. We know that. But when you do the sex hormone binding globulin, it brings it down to about the same level. So no difference in testosterone in its free state, but what you do is get more available testosterone if you're vegan and vegetarian.
So eating plants, putting the right fuel into our bodies, it just works so much more elegantly, efficiently. It balances, instead of just thinking, I need this increases this.
More is not better.
Right.
The right amount is better.
It's amazing.
And that's what our body does. Our body, when we're eating a healthy diet, has these balancing effects. I'll make sure that extra testosterone doesn't feed cancer cell. If you're not eating that fiber, that free testosterone can go stimulate cancer. And that's why you see 4 times higher cancer rates in those eating meat than those eating a strictly plant-based diet.
Amazing. And, let's talk. I mean, we could spend we got to do this again. And I want to spend a half hour just on the unique products. I don't like the word supplements, that, whole food products that Clean Machine. So can you summarize though, like just, because I know it's made for bodybuilders. So if someone was wanting to gain muscle, and I know you help my friend Eli a lot, and you can build muscle, in other words, with using protein powders. You have a protein powder which also has so many other benefits, like vitamin K, right? Vitamin K1.
Yes, indeed.
So you want to talk for about 5 minutes about like what Clean Machine is and what you offer?
Yeah, obviously I named my company Clean Machine because I'm encouraging people to keep this amazing machine that we're born into clean and healthy via living a plant-based diet and exercise. We got to move, we got to eat. If you do those 2 basic things, obviously we got to breathe and have clean drinking water and get restful sleep. But if you can just do those 2 things, wow, big improvements in health. So I wanted to, even though I got this, I am not a bodybuilder. I'm already built. I'm done. I'm 60 years old. I'm not going to get any bigger than this. That's my biological cap. So I'm not a bodybuilder. I'm a body maintainer. And I am a body maintainer in a healthy way. And that's what I want of people. Look, this extra muscle that I'm carrying, just 2.5 pounds of muscle distributed all over the body. So it could just be a few ounces here and there. We'll burn 1 pound of fat every single month, even at rest, because it takes energy to run the muscle machinery. So having more muscle can keep you healthy, can keep you stronger, can keep you from having accidents like falls and stuff, but can also keep your body weight in check. One of the biggest secrets to me staying lean all year round is just carrying more muscle. It's that simple. It's basic math. That's what I want to do to people. But there are things you can eat and things you can do, like exercise, that will help. But I was, in the gym. I was at 24-Hour Fitness, the largest gym and fitness channel in the world. And they did a study saying, why do people stop going to the gym? And the number one reason is I'm not getting results fast enough. Well, they're not getting results fast enough because they're doing things in their diet on a daily basis that is countering everything they're doing in the gym. And I thought, God, if I could just teach people how to treat the inside of the body better, it will respond so much faster and efficiently. You won't be wasting time in the gym working out, doing 3 sets of 10 every time and getting nowhere. That's frustrating. I don't get anybody to quit. I mean, that's the Einstein's old thing, keep doing the same thing and expecting different results.
Right.
So I want people to actually get results. So I look for these extraordinary plants that are super nutrient dense, that have phytochemical properties that aren't found in our food system. Add that to your food, add that to your life, and you can get extraordinary health benefits out of it that you won't find in your food system, that you won't find even in eating a pure plant-based diet. Even if it's organic, they're just simply some phytochemicals and nutrients that aren't in bananas, oranges, pears, greens, the standard root vegetables. They're not there. Like there's phytonutrients in maca you can't get from other ones. There's phytonutrients in ashwagandha. How many of you eat a bowl of ashwagandha for your salad at night? Yeah, no one, right? Because it doesn't happen. These are plants that have extraordinary health benefits that we can include into our everyday life that will give us better results in the gym, that will improve our health, that will improve our sleep, that will improve our sex life. Why wouldn't you want to do that? That's my question. Why limit yourself to an average life of average results, of average health? Why not go for optimal? And for those who want to live the best life they possibly can, I'm offering those. Not everybody wants to do that. I get that. And look, this is not for just bodybuilders. It's for anyone and everyone who's looking to improve their health, improve their life, get better results out of any type of exercise, whether you're doing yoga, playing pickup basketball, swimming, biking, or working out in the gym. It's all exercise, and it all helps muscle physiology. It can all help you reduce the body fat to put you out of risk for diabetes, heart attack, stroke, hypertension, most of the big disease killers. These are the benefits these plants offer us, but we got to know which plants they are. And I go out and search for the best in class. Brought ahi flower to market, the richest source of omega-3 of any plant in the world. I brought lentine to market, very first to bring this. What is lentine? It's the richest source of essential amino acids of any plant in the world. It's the highest in nutrient density of any plant in the world. These are extraordinary plants that no other companies are out there bringing because they're too expensive. Nobody knows about them, so it costs too much money to educate the consumer. So that's too much spend and not enough profit. That's all they're concerned about is profit. Make it cheap, spend a lot of money in marketing, convince people to buy the crappy product, and then make a lot of money. That's not who I am. I love health. I know what that health feels like. I want to give that to other people. So I go out and try to find these extraordinary plants that can help you and help me live the best life possible. And try them, experience them, see for yourself. All of them backed by published human research, so you don't have to trust me. I'm just some dude on the internet, right? But the science is there.
Yeah,
my passion is to try to find these, bring them to market when other marketing-based, profit-based companies will never do this. They will never do that. We're the number one sellers of ahi flower. We are the top sellers of lentine. Why? Because I went out there and I helped educate the consumer on why it's so beneficial. To be honest, I look at Star Trek and I see them living in a post-monetary world. They don't have a fiat currency. They do things because that's what they do and they do well. It's because what they can contribute to the greater good of the whole. God, I would love that. I hate. It feels like I hate making money. I wish I didn't have to do it at all. We're on the verge,
though, of like society almost going in two directions. The people like you, and the people who just want to, are into the greed, and they just don't want to. But it's amazing that that you're doing what you love, like you're actually motivated, and you have such a tremendous background with supplements. I know you worked in those companies before, so you know what to look for. You know how to look at research and see if a study was done well. This is something that I hope in the future me and you can because I love epistemology and, how do we know this is a good research? We could teach this. I would like to make a short, maybe a 4-part series on how to read a research paper. Because,
Yes.
you know what I mean? It's because everybody's getting everything from Facebook. So if we could teach a couple of techniques, what's the difference between double-blind, placebo study, and as you pointed out to me once, all studies are flawed. That's why you have to test it on yourself, which you do as well. So
the presumption. Look, science isn't fact, and I think we confuse those. We want to believe that science is, here's the information, here's what we glean from it. This is our best guess based on the information, and go into a lab and see if we can reproduce that to see if it's reproducible. But the assumptions they make about the reproduction may be false. Here's a great example. So I posted a great doctor who said about cholesterol. So you got 2 types of cholesterol. The cholesterol our body makes, endogenous cholesterol, for all our own purpose, like making hormones like estrogen and testosterone. And then there's dietary cholesterol, the cholesterol that we eat, which almost entirely comes from animals. There's a trace amount of cholesterol in some plants, but not enough to do anything. So the problem with cholesterol is oxidation of cholesterol, just like the heme iron oxidizing, becoming a problem. Same with fats. If you oxidize fats or cholesterol, they become really toxic. They're called rancid, right, at that point. Well, oxidized cholesterol collects in the brain, causes Alzheimer's disease. Oxidized cholesterol collects in the heart. That's a heart attack or a stroke in the brain. Oxidized cholesterol collects in the arteries that lead to the genitalia. That's called erectile dysfunction. Do you see what oxidized cholesterol does to you? It clogs up all your arteries, to your brain, to your heart, to your muscles, and eventually to your sexual organs too as well. So yeah, meat is not masculine. It's the opposite of masculine, unless you want this. Just eating 2.5 eggs, 81% increase in prostate cancer. Once you remove that prostate, 75% of people will never have another erection again in your life.
Wow.
So you think eating those eggs is masculine, right? Lots of protein, right? Wrong. If you want your prostate removed and never be able to have sex again, go for it. If you think that's what masculine is, not.
So you said you were talking
17 times sperm count in vegans compared to meat eaters.
Wow.
17 times.
That's amazing. I know you have a study to back up all this, a good study.
Totally.
But you were mentioning you were talking to a doctor about cholesterol?
Yes. So this doctor did this amazing study, and he says, making cholesterol turn into atherosclerosis, which is the sclerosis is the scar tissue or the plaquing that happens in arteries that cause heart attacks and stroke. Okay, so he says reproducing this in the laboratory is one of the easiest experiments. You can give cholesterol, dietary cholesterol, to any herbivore animal, and 100% of them will form arteriosclerosis. 100%. But it has to be an herbivore animal, because carnivore animals produce something in their thyroid gland that actually breaks that down and prevents that from happening. He goes, it's really interesting because it's no carnivore animal can get heme iron toxicity. No carnivore animal can get arteriosclerosis. It's impossible. And then I posted that and showed that study, and he's like, this only happens in herbivores. Well, arteriosclerosis is the #1 killer of human beings on the planet.
So you're saying that like wolves and lions, they never get heart attacks. They can't get them. That's I didn't even know that, and that's just a no-brainer right there.
Okay, so here's the asterisk. They can get it if you damage their thyroid. Somebody posted an article and said, hey, wait a minute, this study showed some of the eagles, some of the osprey, some of the falcons, right, birds of prey, were getting arteriosclerosis. So I'm like, wait, that shouldn't be possible. So I dove into the study. And this was great because his research saying, yes, but if they have hypothyroidism, basically dysfunctional thyroid, then their body produce the chemical that would break down that cholesterol to prevent that from happening. So I said, okay, well, how many of these birds of prey are getting this? And it was like 2 to 7%. And I'm like, okay, well, 98% don't get it. Why are these 2% getting it? So they looked at the birds, and the birds eat fish. They looked at the fish, and the fish were full of plasticizers from plastic garbage we're putting in the water.
Wow.
Plasticizers are thyroid hormone disruptors.
Amazing. It's like you're like Sherlock Holmes, like, you know, like you knew something wasn't
there
right.
It is. Because this guy was trying to troll me and say, see, you're wrong. And I'm like, no, if you actually look at the study, that's why other birds weren't getting it, because they don't eat the fish that are full of plastics that are destroying their thyroid hormone, which stops them from getting the cholesterol production breakdown. You just got to follow it through, and you'll see that even in the land animals that we're getting it, it's because they're being exposed to polyethylenes in their drinking water. Glyphosate, different hormone disruptors.
Wow.
That were then interfering with their natural process of being able to break down and prevent that. And that's why you're seeing it in such a small percent of carnivores, but it's still there because of human pollution.
But you wouldn't have seen that 100 years ago. You wouldn't see it.
And you know, when you look at that, you're like, oh, it's such a small percent. And when you look at them in nature, it doesn't happen at all. Okay, it's because they're being exposed to human toxins. Right. And that's what's causing it. We're giving carnivore animals that would never get a heart attacks because of what we're polluting them with. Wow. So, you know, when he put up that cholesterol only causes heart attacks or atherosclerosis, stroke, heart attack, hypertension. Hypertension is the closing up of the blood vessel. Why? Because it's lined with blockages. That's atherosclerosis. Hypertension, #1 disease state in the world. Cardiovascular disease, #1 disease killer. #1 killer of Americans in the United States. Wow. 50% of all American deaths end in arteriosclerosis.
Wow.
100% of herbivorous animals get atherosclerosis. Humans get atherosclerosis. So what are we? We're herbivores. It's that simple. The science is there. Carnivores, omnivores can't get heart attacks, no matter how much saturated fat and cholesterol you feed them. Only herbivores get that. Guess what we are? We're herbivores. We're just herbivores putting the wrong food in our mouth. Just because we eat animals doesn't mean that belongs there. Doesn't mean that's our physiology.
Right.
When we look at our physiology and we put that food in us, it causes disease states. Heart attack, stroke, cancer, diabetes, all of it caused by the animal products. Yes, no, eating a bunch of junk food, whether it's vegan or not, no, that's not a good idea either.
Right.
I'm talking about a real whole food plant-based diet, real food, not sabotage food.
No, that's what we're talking about, of course. Yeah. Well, Geoff, thank you so much. I love you. I love what you do. You are so incredible. I can't wait to see you again, and I would love to do this again. And cleanmachine.com, right, is your. Yes. We'll put all the links in the description. And I have something I want to talk to you about. Making a directory. I want to put your products in there. I'm super psyched for that. And Geoff Palmer, right, on social media.
Yeah, you can. It's Geoff, just like in the little corner there.
Okay.
Geoff Palmer. So Geoff Palmer, and you can follow us on online at Clean Machine Fit, both on Instagram and Facebook. I do weekly Facebook Lives, talking about all the latest research of, and I'll be talking about that cholesterol study tomorrow.
I haven't seen
every Thursday, 4 p.m.
Are you still doing those every Thursday? I haven't.
Every Thursday, 4 p.m.
Oh, yeah, I haven't gotten the notifications. I hate this Facebook. Like sometimes I don't know why they stopped notifying me, but I have to go back and catch up on all the ones because I love your stuff. It's always the most. Anybody who's listening, the most cutting edge research. I don't hear it from anywhere else. But you bring up the studies, you show it. So
I share the study, the link. I read the real studies and what they said in quotes directly from the studies, and then I explain it in layman terms. So anybody who's not big on research, don't worry. I
Yep.
I dumb it down. No, not dumb it down. I simplify it so that it's very easily to digest for anybody. And I show you how the real world application of that. If you do this, this is what happens, and this is what happens. This is what the study is inferring and gleaning as far as information goes.
I love it. We need more of that because everyone's getting their information from just short little articles, like journalist articles, which are meant to clickbait, like we need epistemology. We need to actually look at it. It's time. And thank you so much, Geoff. Again, I will. Thank you. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
You too.
We'll talk soon.